set up here. We have a little unique item on the stage today, and we have a pew. And this little movable pew usually sits in the back, just right by those back windows. I see it all the time. It's actually home base for Isabel REINER. That's kind of her. So she's been really good to give that up for a few weeks here. But this pew's here for a particular reason. And in a few weeks, we're going to have a 75th anniversary celebration for our church. Our church, First Covenant, was born March 16th, 1947. And so we're going to be celebrating that on May 21st and 22nd. On the 21st, in the evening, there will be a banquet. It's a free banquet for anybody to come. We'd like you to RSVP either online or on the sheet out in the hallway there. And so we can know just that we have enough food. You don't have to pay for that meal, but we'd like to know so we have enough food for everybody who comes. And then on Sunday, we're having one worship service at 10:15 with our whole church, and some former pastors will be attending and be part of that service as well. You can see the insert that's in the bulletin regarding all of that information. But I did want to highlight the pew because we're going to watch a video here, and it's about 8 minutes long, and it's the story, so to speak, from the pew. It's the view from the pew, and we have 3 Sundays until that 22nd Sunday, and our church has been around 75 years, so we look at about the first 25 years in this short 8-minute video. Next week, the next 25, and then the next 25 on the 15th of May, and then we gather together for our anniversary celebration on that 22nd. So enjoy, friends, the view from the pew.
Good morning. Let me introduce myself. I'm an old pew that's been with First Covenant Church since they began in 1947. I was all nicely polished on that March 16th in 1947 in the afternoon to welcome children and adults to the Little White Church on Maple Drive. It was under the direction of the Mission Covenant Church of Charles City. Their pastor, Reverend J. Milton Holmberg, was to preach that afternoon, but for some unknown reason, the Lord took him to his heavenly home while he was preaching in his own pulpit just 3 hours before. Well, I can tell you, there was a lot of shock, sadness, and scurrying around to find someone to take his place. A layman from Nashua answered the call, and the first service was held as planned. So the Charles City Friends faithfully continued to conduct these Sunday afternoon services until Norris M. Peterson, a student at North Park Seminary, became an intern pastor. He was installed by Superintendent Anderson and Reverend John Bankston, who was the conference secretary on June 29th, 1947. Midweek prayer services started July 9th, with 11 attending that first meeting. Then came the first 2 weeks in July. Boy, I wasn't prepared for that day. Daily vacation Bible school was held, and 41 lively children climbed all over me each day. After the initial shock, I really loved it. In fact, if you look closely, I think you can still see scratches from those days. On Sunday evening, July 27th, the children gave a fine program. I was so proud of them. Sunday school was started September 5th in 1947, and by October, attendance was up to 59. Our church had been a Presbyterian church, but it was empty for many years and needed a good cleaning and redecorating. Many, many neighbors pitched in and cleaned, varnished, sanded, and painted until every inch had been covered, including me. We were all ready for the dedication to the Lord on November 9th, 1947. On a cold, sleety December 4th night, 9 applicants presented themselves for membership. Before charter membership was closed, there were 12. Our members didn't waste any time, though. The Ladies' Aid Auxiliary was organized on December 5th, 1947, with 7 members. Also in December that year, the High League was organized with 7 members. In August of 1948, the Iowa Conference purchased a parsonage on East State Street. It, too, needed a lot of renovation and redecorating. I heard that they had an open house at the parsonage on October 10th, and it, too, was dedicated to the Lord. On August 29th, Norris Peterson resigned as intern pastor, and Reverend Roy E. Olson was installed as our first permanent pastor. What an impressive ceremony. Reverend Olson served from 1948 to 1950. Then, Theodore Clemens was with us from 1951 to 1953. C.V.S. Engstrom, 1954, and then an energetic young man by the name of Wallace CARLSON became our pastor in June of 1954. Our church continued to grow. There were Sunday school contests to bring friends, and we outgrew our space. In 1960, we purchased a house at 1104 Maple Drive to be used for a church office, Sunday school classes, Bible study groups, and a nursery during Ladies' Aid meetings. I'm amazed that our Sunday school grew from 34 in 1953 to 170 in 1960. I miss all those noisy activities, but I'm thankful that the Lord was blessing our efforts to reach the children and their parents with His love. As we sadly said goodbye to Reverend CARLSON in 1961, we warmly welcomed Reverend Robert Christensen. He was the son of a missionary in South Africa. He was born and he was raised in Johannesburg and spent the first 20 years of his life there. I really enjoyed his stories. In 1963, Reverend David CARLSON became our pastor. In 1965, we were full to overflowing, and a new site for First Covenant Church on the south side of Horse Street Southeast was purchased. The long-awaited day arrived. On Sunday, June 26, 1966, the first spade full of dirt was turned over for the new $100,000 First Covenant Church. Completion was scheduled for early 1967. Exciting things were happening. Guess what? In the spring of 1967, I had a new home, and it was beautiful. I was carefully wrapped in a blanket and moved to our new church, and I just loved my new home. Sunday, April 9th, 1967, was a glorious day when we dedicated our new church to the Lord. In July of 1967, Pastor CARLSON accepted a call to a church in Colorado. So in November, Mr. Herbert Bowie, a retired Salvation Army officer, became our intern pastor until we welcomed Reverend Neil Peterson, his wife Rose Marie, and their 5 children. On February 4th, 1968, Pastor Peterson was installed as our new pastor. I never got lonely here at church. There was always something going on, and I heard about wonderful activities that the folks were involved in. They had a father-son banquet, and the cradle roll mothers served the meal. Also, there were mother-daughter banquets. I think I smelled baked steak. And there were youth banquets. Some of our junior hires took part in a talent festival and took home real high ratings. You know, I'm not surprised. I heard them practicing. 6 of our women attended the Covenant Women's annual meeting and became very enthusiastic about the many things that organization was doing. I heard that the next year we would be hosting that meeting. Sure enough, women from all over Iowa came to our church for the 1969 Covenant Women's annual meeting. That was a busy and a very special day. In 1970 began with a week of cottage prayer meetings. Let me tell you, it was really cold. In mid-January, 25 kids and their counselors went to Twin Lakes Bible Camp for something called Wintertainment. When they got back, I heard all about the fun they had. But the kids aren't the only ones that have fun around here. The adults have a friendship club, and they have a mighty good time, too. An outstanding choir developed, and our pastor and others from our church have been very active in community-wide events like the various Billy Graham films, the Lundstrom Crusade, and the Faith at Work Conference. Pastor Peterson left us in 1974, and Reverend Alfred Olner and his lovely wife Alice came to us in 1975. Whew, you know, that's a lot of memories, and this old pew is getting tired. You know, I guess I'll just take a nap. I'll see you next week. Hello again. In case you don't remember me, I'm the old church pew that was in the First Covenant Church when it first opened its doors in 1947. I've been doing a lot of remembering since the last time we met. Now, Pastor Olner became our pastor in 1975, and we helped him and his wife Alice retire in 1983. Reverend Frank Ashley and his wife Leah were welcomed as our new pastor. There has always been a strong desire to touch others with the love of Christ, both in foreign missions as well as here at home. We loved hearing from our missionaries. We were fortunate to have several come and share with us. Reverend and Mrs. Willard Grant took us on an imaginary but realistic railroad excursion into American history and the Christian faith. That was really exciting. They used chalk talks, marionettes, fun songs, and they had real pieces of railroad equipment. In the 1980s, we had a Possibilities for Growth workshop by the Robert Schuller Institute for Successful Church Leadership. That's not all. Covenant Heart Song, a group of young adults that used music, puppets, and drama, came twice. Oh, I really loved those puppets. We also had a lay witness weekend. I saw the church continue to grow in numbers as well as commitment to Christ and to each other. A church-wide prayer chain and men's prayer breakfast were organized. A delightful dinner for 8 helped people get better acquainted. There were also Guess Who's Coming for Dinner and Guess Who's Coming for Dessert. At the beginning of the event, people were given an address and were very surprised to find out who their host and fellow guests were. I hear it was great fun. There was great hidden talent in the church. Coffee House was an evening of fun that showcased the music and acting abilities of a surprising number of people. More kids were coming, so a junior high group and a junior high choir were started. The young adults that met called themselves the Melroys. With all that going on, I wasn't surprised when I heard talk of the building of an education wing. Once again, they got out the shovel and broke ground on June 10th, 1984. It was dedicated on May 19th, 1985. One of my favorite parts was the Noah's Ark mural that artist Dave Hickman painted on the wall in the children's Sunday school room. The work continued as a paved parking lot and landscaping were added. Oh, speaking of landscaping, our church won numerous awards for the beautiful flower bed planted and cared for by the church women. Oh, and there was a fire in our church in 1984. Now, before you get too concerned, let me tell you, it was a good fire. On November 18th, 1984, we celebrated retiring the debt on the church building with a mortgage burning ceremony at the annual Thanks Dinner. Pastor Ashley's last Sunday with us was December 25th, 1988. Pastor Elmer Pearson and his wife, June, graciously served us as interim pastor until June 25th, 1989. On August 27th, 1989, we welcomed Pastor Dan Piatzik, his wife Carrie, and sons Jason, Brent, and Sean. Wonderful pastor, but what a name to spell. He was our pastor from 1989 to 1995. You know, we had an awful lot of firsts in the 1990s. The first Turkey Bowl, a soccer and football match between the junior high and senior high. I heard it was pretty wild. The first drama group was formed. Their skits were a meaningful part of our worship service. In 1992, we had our first summer music camp that produced Salty's Hymnological Adventure Through Time. Those rehearsals were crazy. You know, I wondered at times if they could ever pull it off, but it turned out to be such a success that it became a summer annual event. In 1996, music camp was in the morning, and a new event, the first sports camp, was in the afternoon. In 1991, Sam Drew became our first intern pastor. Don Nelson became our second. We enjoyed them both very much. Oh, here's another first. On August 1st, 1993, Mark Anderson became our first youth and family minister. His wife Susie started a very successful MOPS program. I expect to see ladies with mops cleaning the floor, but no, it stood for Mothers of Preschoolers. They met at church for prayer and Bible study. The kids were called Mopettes. Quite an active bunch, I tell you. But what's a few crayon marks and scratches? There wasn't an inch of church that wasn't used when they came. I always looked forward to their monthly meetings. Then in 1991, we had our first second service with Sunday school between the 8:15 and the 10:30 services. In 1992, our choir presented the first Living Christmas Tree performance. It was amazing to watch them build that big framework and then decorate it to look like a real Christmas tree. Each year, the church was filled when the choir presented the beautiful musical message of Christmas. In 1994, we had a first anywhere living puppet Christmas tree featuring nearly 30 puppets. Okay, are you ready for more firsts? The high school kids took their first mission trip to Reynosa, Mexico in 1992, and in 1993, they took their first inner city mission trip to Chicago. In 1993, we commissioned our first class of Stevens ministers. They helped the pastors reach out to those in need. Then, in the fall of 1993, our first Wednesday Night Alive program became an exciting part of our ministry. A meal was served at 6 o'clock, followed by Bible study and activities for the entire family. Pastor Rich Murray and his family came here in the fall of 1995. You know, I really know that there are a lot of more firsts and important events. But you know what? Like I said, I'm an old pew, and my memory isn't what it used to be. Besides, you know, I really think I feel a nap coming on. So until next time. Well, hello there again. You know, I've really enjoyed sharing my memories. It's amazing to see how God has guided and blessed our church through the years. I remember that Reverend Richard Murray was senior pastor in 1995, and a very creative young man named Mark Anderson was our minister of youth and family. He had the kids doing RAK, R-A-K, and that stood for Random Acts of Kindness. They did things like raking leaves for those unable to do it for themselves and helping at the community kitchen. Now that's what I call faith in action. Mark was with us for 5 years when he accepted a call to become a senior pastor at a church in Virginia. Mike Presby then joined us as youth and family minister. I've got to tell you about something that really special happened in 1999. During Holy Week, there was an upper room service held in an attic. That and the mini Easter cantata by the choir really brought to mind the real meaning of Easter. Then in June, a number of our members went on an adult and family mission trip to Saltillo, Mexico. They came back tired, but with wonderful stories of their experience. Before we knew it, it was the year 2000, a new millennium. What new and exciting plans did God have for us? Well, I got moved along with the other pews out of the sanctuary so remodeling could be done. Worship services were held in the fellowship hall for a while. On the other side of the church, major construction was going on, very noisy. A multi-purpose room they call the koinonia room was added. Did you know that koinonia means Christian fellowship? You know, I think they picked a great name for that room. Pastor Rich Murray left us in the fall of 2001. We were blessed to have Mike Presby assume more responsibilities, and Kathy Graves, Jerry Johnson, and Don Pearson helped us out. In December of 2003, just in time for us to celebrate Christmas, Pastor Tammy Swanson Draheim, her husband Kelly, and 2 sons arrived. Our church once again presented the living Christmas tree with over 400 people enjoying the 2-evening event. After Mike Presby resigned, the pastoral search team got busy, and a call was extended to Pastor Craig and Mary Pinley. This bright, young, talented couple was just what we needed. God is good. As I look back over 2005, several special events come to mind. The Pinleys were doing great things with the youth, even starting a weekly breakfast at Pinley's. What teenager doesn't like food? Camp Kid was a very popular Wednesday evening event. Enthusiastic, energetic adults and kids from our church and community enjoyed supper at 6 o'clock, followed by songs, games, and stories. The kids always enjoyed visits by Morris the Moose Puppet. Those were quite the lively evenings. But to me, the most memorable events of 2005 were the men's mission trip to Ecuador and the youth mission trip to Juarez, Mexico. When they all returned, I heard many of them say that their lives had been changed by those experiences. In 2006, we called David Bjorlin to help us develop a new contemporary style of service that was called free song. Our first service remained traditional. Dave left in 2008, and we really missed him. Also, in 2008, the Pinleys left us to return to Illinois, where Craig accepted a call to be a senior pastor. It was hard to say goodbye, but God had new and exciting things in store for us with the arrival of Marty and Chris Garrett and their 3 girls. In addition to his duties as associate pastor, Marty directed the senior and junior high activities. Chris was director of children's ministry. Marty was also very involved with the free song worship team. In 2010, a very creative and energetic young woman by the name of Kristen Ray Nelson became our children and family minister. She quickly became involved in the lives of our kids. I never got lonely around here. There was always something going on. Each week, there were about 10 different church ministry groups here, not to mention groups from the community, such as TOPS, a Quilters group, and Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The Children's House preschool met in the Koinonia room. Then there were church dinners, showers, weddings, and funerals. A very busy place. In 2011, God had other plans for Pastor Tammy. God called her to be superintendent of the Midwest Conference. That was pretty special, but there were a lot of tears when she and Kelly left us. Now, 2012 was another time of goodbyes and hellos, and there were many changes in the pastoral staff. We said goodbye to interim pastor Phil Stenberg. Pastor Marty Garrett left in July, and Pastor Kristen Ray Nelson left in December. Wow, that's a lot of change. But once again, God had great plans for us. On Easter Sunday, April 8th, 2012, we had extra reason to be joyful as we celebrated our risen Savior and welcomed Pastor Steve Johnson, his wife Terry, and their 5 children. With his extra busy schedule and praise team leader, Pastor Steve, along with the rest of us, were very happy when Ross Erickson agreed to be our interim associate pastor on a part-time basis. In 2013, after many meetings and interviews by our search team, Pastor Greg REINER was called to be our associate pastor. He and his wife Stefanie moved here in July. When a ministry assistant position became open, we hired Stefanie. What a great fit. In 2014, something amazing happened. No staff changes. We had 2 different worship services with fellowship and education between. The first that year was an outdoor baptism service. The church supported the high school group with a fundraiser for Chick. I couldn't believe it when I heard that pies were being auctioned off for $100. The students were speechless by the generosity of the church. In July of 2015, 15 students and 5 leaders went to Chick in Knoxville, Tennessee. There were several memorable events in 2016. Pastor Steve and Terry, along with 10 others, went to the Holy Land. Several people visited the X-Strands, our missionaries in the Congo, and our whole church joined Pastor Greg and Stefanie in welcoming baby Isabel into the world in May. What a cute baby. Oh, I almost forgot, too. We got cushions on the sanctuary pews. Ah, what a comfort. We were all so happy when Stefanie became Director of Children and Family Ministries. She was full of enthusiasm and great ideas. I've noticed that it wasn't only the children that enjoyed her sermons. Then, in March of 2020, I became lonely here at church. I heard strange, scary words like COVID-19, pandemic, and a quarantine. I saw very few people, and they all wore masks. I wondered how we could stick together as a church and worship God. But not to worry, God can't be controlled by a virus. With all the amazing new technology and creativity of some very smart, dedicated people, our Sunday service went right into the people's homes using Zoom and YouTube. During that time, Stefanie kept in contact with the children by delivering bags with activities related to the Sunday sermon. Gradually, in 2021, safety guidelines were established and people began returning to church. So here we are in 2022. We were getting back to worshiping together again while being very careful to make sure our time together is safe. I'm not lonely anymore. Now I'm smelling fresh paint and hearing hammering and sawing. We're in the process of remodeling. The younger children are now in a beautiful bright space in the former library adult Sunday school room. I'm sure as you look around, you'll see many new changes. And now, we're about to celebrate our 75th anniversary with a very special weekend. It'll be fun for the whole family. I sure hope to see you there. God has blessed our church these past 75 years, and I can hardly wait to see what he has in store for our future. May God bless you and First Covenant Church of Mason City. Happy anniversary.